Graydine. The name when spoken sounds like shattering glass, a name that is dry, sharp, and catches in the throat. It is not a city. It is an open grave. How long have I been here? 3 weeks? 4? Time in Graydine doesn't pass. It coagulates like the stagnant water in the narrow alleys, reeking of mildew and rotting garbage. The spires of the silent minster reach for the sky, not as a prayer, but as bony, gnarled fingers, ready to claw at the perpetual. Lead-colored heavens. Its pointed arches and monstrous gargoyles stare down at us, the living, as if waiting for us to join their ranks. But I am not here for the architecture. I am here for Lyra, my sister, my only light, and Graydine has swallowed her. The headache hits. It always starts this way. Not a dull ache, but a sudden, sharp shock, as if someone is driving a cold iron spike directly behind my left eye. I call it the Graydine ache. It comes with the fog. That night, the pain woke me. I opened my eyes. Our in-room was freezing. The candle on the table was out, its wick drowned in a pool of cold wax. The wind howled through the wide-open window frame, carrying the rain and the damp cold of the city. "Lyra?" I called, my voice hoarse. Silence answered me. A heavy, suffocating silence. Her small bed, tucked in the corner, was empty. The blanket was mangled. "Lyra!" I threw myself from the bed. The wooden floor was icy beneath my bare feet. My headache exploded into a throbbing pulse. I staggered to the window, rain lashing my face. I looked down into the cobblestone alley below, a black fissure between 2 rotting buildings. Nothing, just the rain and its echo. Panic rose in my chest, cold and slick. I am not a warrior. I am a painter. My hands are familiar with charcoal and brush, not a sword. I came to Graydine at the invitation of some wealthy patron who had heard of my talent. Lyra, always worried for me since before, had insisted on coming. She said I needed someone to look after me. Now, I had failed her. I dressed hastily, my hands shaking so badly I could barely fasten the ties of my tunic. I grabbed my only dagger, more for defense than an offense. As I burst from the room, something caught my eye on the windowsill. It was Lyra's favorite blue ribbon. It was snagged on a rusty nail. But that wasn't all. Clinging to it was a smear of something, a black, viscous ooze glistening in the weak moonlight. It carried a stench, a smell of sulfur and something ancient, something that should have remained buried. My headache roared. "No," I whispered, horror seizing me. It found her, the thing in the fog. The townspeople had warned us. They spoke of phantoms, of an ancient curse that plagued the city. They spoke of the silent minster and its secrets. They spoke of Abbot Alaric. I snatched the ribbon, the slime clinging to my fingers, cold. I plunged down the stairs, ignoring the sleepy call of the innkeeper. I burst into the street. Graydine greeted me with a howl of wind. The buildings leaned over me, and I had the feeling that this city, this rotting entity, was aware of me. It was watching. The trail of ooze led me on, small gleaming patches on the wet cobblestones, leading toward the heart of this decay, leading toward the silent minster. Dawn in Graydine is an insult. The sun doesn't rise. It merely makes the ash-gray night a shade brighter. I had wandered for hours, losing the slimy trail in the maze of alleys. Now I stood before the massive iron gates of the minster. It was a fortress. Its stone walls were black with smog and age. Abbot Alaric ruled this place with an iron fist. They said he knew of the curse. They said he controlled it. I hammered on the thick oak door. The echo sounded like breaking bones. After a long moment, a small grille opened, and the withered face of an old monk peered out. "The minster is closed," he mumbled. "I need to see Abbot Alaric," I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a matter of life and death." He looked at me, his eyes emotionless. "The abbot receives no visitors." "My sister," I yelled, desperation making me reckless. "She's been taken by the thing you're hiding in here." I held up the ribbon, the black ooze now dried on my fingers like a scale. The monk's eyes widened, but not in fear. It was pity. He slammed the grill shut. "No!" I roared, beating my fists on the door. But then I heard the heavy, grinding sound of a bolt. The door slowly creaked open. The inside of the minster was colder than the outside. The air was thick with the smell of old wax, decaying paper, and something else, damp earth. The towering hallways, the Gothic vaults intertwining overhead, swallowed what little light there was. Every sound was muffled. True to its name, this place was silent. The monk led me through a desolate courtyard, where weather-worn statues of saints wept streaks of green moss. We entered the abbot's study. Alaric was not what I expected. He was not old, but he looked tired. A man with a severe face, dressed in a simple black cassock, stood by a stained glass window overlooking the minster's graveyard. "Sir Anselm," he said, his voice low and flat, without turning. "I had wondered when you would arrive." "You knew?" I gasped. "You knew Lyra was gone?" "I know many things about Graydene," Alaric said. He turned. His eyes were the same gray as the city. "And about those who come here." "Then you know what took her," I said, taking a step forward. "The thing you're harboring. I saw its trail. The black slime." Alaric stared at me. A long silence stretched. My headache began to throb, a pulse in time with the rain outside. "You should leave Graydene, Painter," Alaric said at last. His voice held no threat. It was almost sad. "Not without my sister," I growled. "You don't understand." Alaric said, moving to his desk. "There are curses best left undisturbed. There are doors best left closed. You're behind this," I accused, my dagger still in my hand, hidden beneath my cloak. "The villagers are right about you. You use it to keep this city in fear." This was a clear red herring. My mind had latched onto Alaric as the villain. It was the only explanation that made sense. Alaric shook his head. "You are looking for a monster outside, Sir Anselm. That is your mistake." He glanced at my hand. "But the real monster? It is already inside you." "You lie!" "Stop looking for her," Alaric commanded, his voice hardening. "Leave Graydene at once. This is your only warning. She was taken by the city's curse, and you will never find her this way." Rage flared in me, hot and bright, drowning the headache. He admitted it. He admitted taking her. I drew the dagger. "Give her back to me." Alaric didn't even flinch. He just looked at the blade. Then at me. "You are making a terrible mistake." Guards, two massive monks, looking more like soldiers than men of God, entered from a hidden door. They seized me. I fought, but I was weak with exhaustion and fear. They dragged me from the room, my screams echoing in the silent halls. "You won't keep her," I shrieked. "I'll find her." They threw me from the minster gates, down the rain-soaked stone steps. The doors boomed shut behind me, a sound of finality. I lay there, shivering with cold and rage, the rain pouring onto my face. Alaric had Lyra. He was holding her, perhaps to sacrifice her to the abomination he worshipped. I had failed, but I would not give up. I would tear that minster apart, stone by stone, if I had to. I returned to our room, my mind racing. I needed a plan. I needed a weapon. But first, I needed proof, something to prove Alaric's guilt. The room was painfully empty. All of Lyra's things were still here. Her half-finished knitted shawl, the book of poetry she was reading. It was as if she had just stepped out. I began to search. Alaric or his men might have left something, a sign, a clue. I tore apart Lyra's bed, tossing her clothes aside. Nothing. My headache had subsided to a dull throb. I sat heavily on my own bed, holding my head. I was failing. "Why, Lyra?" I whispered to the empty room. "Why did you follow me to this damned place?" My eyes scanned the room, my things, my easel, my rolls of canvas, my box of charcoals and ink. The black ooze. No, it couldn't be. That ooze smelled of sulfur. My ink just smelled of iron and mold. I went to my desk. Everything was tidy, exactly as I had left it. I am a meticulous man. I hate messes. I opened my portfolio, where I keep my finished pieces. I needed to see something beautiful, something that wasn't gradine. I pulled out a stack of sketches, drawings of the countryside we had passed through, and then I saw it. It was a small portrait, 18, in a simple wooden frame. Lyra had painted it for me weeks ago. It was a portrait of us, standing side by side, smiling. Lyra's smile was bright, while I, as usual, looked stern. It was a good painting, capturing her essence, but it had been destroyed. A choked sob escaped my throat. The portrait 10 was there, but my face had been desecrated. Someone had taken a sharp object, a knife or perhaps a piece of charcoal, and scratched out my eyes in the painting. They weren't eyes anymore. They were two empty, angry pits. The lines were savage, frenzied, smearing my entire face, twisting my faint smile into a hideous sneer. Lyra's face was untouched. She was smiling next to that monster. "No, no, no!" I backed away, the portrait falling from my hands. My headache returned, violent, like a drill. "Alaric!" I gasped. "He was here. He was in our room." It was the only explanation. This was a warning, a cruel psychological game. What was Alaric trying to tell me? That I was a monster? That Lyra was afraid of me? "She's not afraid of me," I told myself, my voice trembling. "She loves me. I'm her protector." I picked up the portrait. The scratches were so deep they had torn the canvas. I stared at the violation, and a new, cold feeling, a fear I hadn't known before, began to creep in. Why would Lyra do this? The thought came suddenly, unbidden. Alaric didn't do this. Lyra did. "No!" I yelled, throwing the portrait against the wall. The wooden frame shattered. She would never. She was forced. Or this is a lie. But the seed of doubt was planted. I looked around the room, no longer a safe haven, but a trap. Everything was suspect. The air was thick with deceit. I had to get back into the minster, but not through the main gate. I had to find another way. The villagers spoke of old tunnels, catacombs 10 beneath the city, connecting everything. And I still had a trail to follow. Not of slime, but of something more tangible. I looked down at the floor, where the ruined portrait lay face down. Beside it, something had fallen from behind the torn canvas backing. A key, a small old iron key, stamped with the crest of the Silent Minster. Lyra had hidden it. She had tried to leave me a path. She knew she would be taken. She knew I would come for her. My panic subsided, replaced by a cold, steel resolve. Alaric had underestimated us. He thought I was just a weak painter. He didn't know what I would do to save my sister. The catacombs beneath Gradine were a damp hell. The stench of mold and decay was so thick it made me gag. Lyra's key had opened a creaking iron grate, hidden behind a stack of empty barrels in the inn cellar. I had only a torch, its flickering light creating dancing shadows that looked like creatures lurking just beyond my vision. The drip of water was a constant, echoing sound. I could hear the rustle of rats, or perhaps something worse. I had been walking for hours, or so it seemed. The tunnels twisted and turned, a labyrinth of cold stone and darkness. Many times I almost turned back, convinced I was lost. But I thought of Lyra, imprisoned somewhere above me in the minster's suffocating silence, and I pressed on. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a small, forgotten chapel. There was a crumbling stone altar and a few rotted pews. But it wasn't those that caught my attention. In the corner, there was a makeshift bed, an old blanket, a few candle stubs, and a leather satchel. Lyra's satchel. My heart hammered. She had been here. She had been hiding here. I lunged for it, fumbling with the bag. It was nearly empty. Some dried food, but as I turned it upside down, a small leather-bound book fell out. Her journal. My hands were shaking so much I could barely open it. Lyra never let me read her journal. It was her only private space. "Forgive me, Lyra," I whispered. I opened it. The first few pages were full of her usual observations, the beauty of the countryside, the strange foods we'd tried. But as the dates neared our arrival in Graydene, the tone changed. 10th of Fog Month. We've arrived in Graydene. This place is gloomy. Anselm doesn't seem to notice. He's so focused on his work. But he is having the headaches again. The bad ones. They make him irritable. He yelled in his sleep last night. I frowned. I didn't remember yelling. 14th of Fog Month. A's headaches are worse. He forgets things. This morning, he asked why we were in Graydene, even though he arranged the trip. When I reminded him of the patron, he looked at me like I was a stranger. Then the pain passed, and he was himself again. It's frightening me. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't remember that. I didn't remember any of it. I flipped frantically through the pages. Lyra's handwriting grew sloppier, more panicked. 17th of Fog Month. He isn't my brother anymore. Not always. There is someone else there, a frightening one. He went out last night. When he came back, his hands were covered in something black, like ink. He said he went for a walk, but his eyes, they were empty, like in the portrait. The portrait. My heart stopped. 19th of Fog Month. A found the portrait today. He was so angry. He thinks I did it. But I didn't. It was him. I saw him do it, in a fugue state. He was holding a knife and scratching at the painting, mumbling things I couldn't understand. He said, "You will never leave me. I'm terrified. I have to go. Abbot Alaric says he can help. He says he's seen this before. The curse of Graydene isn't a monster. It's a madness. No, this was a lie. Alaric had gotten to her. He had forced her to write these things. He was trying to frame me, to manipulate me. I turned to the last page, but it wasn't Lyra's writing. It was my handwriting, my script. I'd know it anywhere, but I had no memory of writing it. The page was covered in frenzied, insane scribbles. Eyes, hundreds of eyes, staring at me from the page, and in the center, written over and over, was a single word: mine, mine, mine. Lyra is mine. She will not leave. The torch fell from my hand, sputtering out on the damp stone floor. I was plunged into total darkness. The room began to spin. The journal was proof. But proof of what? That Alaric was a master manipulator? Or that Lyra was telling the truth? My headache exploded, not as a spike, but as a bomb. I collapsed, clutching my head, screaming in the darkness of the catacomb. My screams were swallowed by the stone silence. Who was I? What had I done? I don't know how long I was in the dark. Minutes. Hours. The pain had subsided to an agonizing throb. My screams had faded to dry sobs. No, I knew who I was. I was Anselm. I was Lyra's brother, her protector. This was a trick. A sophisticated, evil trick. Alaric had taken Lyra. He had found her journal. He had forged my handwriting. He had planted it here for me to find. He wanted to drive me mad. He wanted me to doubt myself, to give up. But he had failed. He had only made me more determined. I fumbled in the dark, finding the torch. I relit it with my flint and tinder. The weak light returned. I stuffed the journal into my tunic. It was a lie, but it was also a weapon. It showed the lengths Alaric would go to. I had to find Lyra, now. I pushed deeper into the tunnels, heading in the direction I believed was beneath the minster. The air grew colder, and I could smell the wax and old paper again. I was close. The tunnel ended at a stone spiral staircase. It led up. I climbed, careful not to make a sound. The stairs led to a heavy wooden door. I heard voices from the other side. "Cannot keep her here any longer," a voice whispered. It was Alaric. "He is too unpredictable. His madness, it's growing stronger. What should we do, Abbot?" another voice asked. "The guards cannot hold him forever. We will move her to the convent at Silverstream at dawn. He will never find her there. It is the only way to keep her safe." Keep her safe. The lie. They were moving her. They were taking her from me. I couldn't wait. I threw my weight against the door. I found myself in a long, dim 23 hallway, lit by a few candles. Alaric and the 2 guard monks stood there. They spun around, shocked. "You!" Alaric gasped. "You took her journal!" I snarled, drawing my dagger. The journal in my pocket felt as heavy as lead. "You wrote those lies." "Anselm, listen to me," Alaric said, holding up his hands. "You are sick. You don't know what you are doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," I hissed. "I'm saving my sister. Where is she?" I lunged at him. The monks intercepted me, but my rage gave me strength. I broke past them. I pressed my dagger to Alaric's throat. "Tell me," I whispered, my voice shaking with fury, "or I swear I will end you right here." Alaric looked at me, and in his eyes was not fear. It was bottomless pity. "You truly don't remember, do you?" "Remember what?" "Look around you, Anselm," he said softly. "You are not in a hallway." I blinked. The headache was blurring my vision. I looked around. We were not in a hallway. We were in a room. A large, empty room with walls covered by mirrors. Dozens of large, tarnished, gilt-framed mirrors, all reflecting us. And in every mirror, I saw myself, a wild, filthy, red-eyed man, holding a knife to a monk's throat. No, I stepped back, releasing Alaric. And then I saw it. In the largest mirror, directly opposite me, my reflection. It was watching me. I frowned, confused and terrified. My reflection smiled. It was not my smile. It was a sneer, evil, sinister. A smile of triumph and hate. I took a step back. My reflection stayed put. It did not move with me. It just stood there, smiling, while my image in all the other mirrors retreated in horror. What is this?" I stammered. "It is you, Anselm," Alaric said, his voice heavy with sadness. "It is the part of you. The curse of Gradine is not a monster in the fog. It is a fracture in the soul. It finds those who are already broken, and it gives them a name." My headache detonated. I fell to my knees, grasping my head. The room of mirrors began to spin. Hundreds of images of me, some terrified, some smiling wickedly, swirled around me. "Where is Lyra?" I cried, but the voice sounded distant. "We hid her," Alaric said. "To protect her. From you." "No, I protect her. Mine," a voice boomed in my head. It wasn't my voice. It was his, the reflection's voice. "She is mine," the voice hissed. and I will not let anyone take her. I felt a cold surge of power. It was not my power. It was strong, ancient, and full of hate. My headache vanished, replaced by an ice-cold clarity. I stood up. Alaric and the monks backed away. I looked at the mirror. The reflection was nodding. "I see," I said, but the voice was not my own. It was deeper, harder. "You tried to divide us. You tried to take her from me." "Anselm, no!" Alaric cried. "My name is not Anselm," I growled. "Anselm is the name of the weak one." I turned on Alaric. "Now, give her to me, or I will tear this minster down. Starting with you." Alaric saw he had lost. The pity in his eyes was gone, replaced by terror. "The bell tower. We are keeping her in the bell tower. But please, do not harm her." "Harm her?" I growled. "I would never harm her. I am saving her. From you." I shoved him aside and ran from the mirror room. I knew this minster. I had been here before, in my fugues. I knew exactly where to go. The wind was howling outside. A storm was breaking. Perfect. I bounded up the bell tower stairs, 2 at a time. The door at the top was locked. I threw my shoulder against it. The wood groaned too, but didn't break. "Lyra!" it roared. "I'm here!" I heard a muffled scream from within. "Open the door, Alaric!" It shouted, though I knew he was still below. "Or I'll break it down." I stepped back and charged it with all my strength. The lock burst. I tumbled into the belfry. The room was vast, empty, save for the giant, dangling bell ropes. Wind and rain screamed through the open, unglazed windows. And there, in the corner, cowering, was Lyra. She was not bound. She was not hurt. She was just terrified. And Alaric was standing in front of her, shielding her. "How?" It stammered. "How did you get up here so fast?" "I never left," Alaric said. "The man you spoke to below was another monk. I knew you would come here." "Get away from her," it commanded. "No," Alaric said, his voice firm. "This ends, Anselm. The game is over." "I told you," Lyra cried, tears streaming down her face. "He's trying to help me, to help us." My mind fractured. The words didn't match. The scene didn't match. Lyra was cowering, but not from Alaric. She was cowering from me. "Anselm, please," she sobbed. Remember what happened before Gradine. Remember the fire." The fire. The headache returned, a soul-tearing agony. And then I remembered. Not a memory, a blast of white-hot images. Flames, screams, our parents, and Anselm. The real Anselm, our older brother, the one who ran back into the fire to save me. My real name? I couldn't even remember it, and Lyra. He had pushed us out the window, and then the roof collapsed. He had died. I, not Anselm, but me, had watched it. That little boy had died watching his hero burn. And in the grief, in the silence that followed, something had happened. That boy had vanished, and Anselm was born. A protector, a hero, one who would never let anything happen to Lyra. "No," I whispered. My voice, my real voice, weak. "Yes," Alaric said gently, as if he could hear my thoughts. The trauma created him, a protector personality, but it became possessive. It wasn't protecting her anymore. It was imprisoning her. When she tried to make friends, Anselm drove them away. When she tried to leave, Anselm became violent. I looked down at my hands. They were stained with black ink. "Too. The ooze," I whispered. It was my ink." "You wandered the city at night," Alaric explained. "Smearing the walls, mumbling about monsters. You became the monster you thought you were hunting. You scratched the portrait 18 in a fit of jealous rage. You wrote in Lyra's journal 22 with your own hand. Lyra hadn't been missing. She had escaped from me. She had run to the minster for sanctuary. And I had hunted her. The entire story, the entire hunt, it was a delusion, a fabrication of my own fractured mind. 21. I was not the hero. I was the madman. 29. I was the curse of Gradine. No, the voice of Anselm roared in my head. It's a lie. Kill them and take her back. She is ours. I felt my arm raise the dagger. I felt my body lunge toward Alaric. But I also saw Lyra. I saw the absolute terror in her eyes. Terror not for a monster, but for me. And that broke it. I used every last shred of my will. I fought him. I fought Anselm. I stopped, inches from Alaric. The dagger trembled in my hand. No, I said, my voice, no more. The Anselm voice in my head shrieked, a cry of failure and rage. I turned the dagger, and I let it go. It clattered to the stone floor with a sharp, bright sound that echoed through the belfry. The storm outside seemed to pause. I looked at Lyra. You're safe now, I said. And then the strength left me. I collapsed. Silence. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the oppressive silence of the minster, but silence in my head. The growling, the whispering, the roaring of Anselm was gone. I was in a small, clean room, a cell, but not a dungeon, a simple cot and a small barred window that overlooked the minster gardens. The air smelled of dried herbs and rain. The door opened. Alaric entered. He carried a tray of food, soup and bread. You have slept for 3 days, he said, setting the tray down. I sat up. My body ached, but my head was clear, frighteningly clear. Is he gone? I asked, my voice raw. He is pushed back, Alaric said, but he is not gone. He is part of you. He is waiting. Lyra? Safe. She has left Gradine. She is on her way to Silverstream. She wanted to see you, but I said it was better not to. I nodded. Hot tears welled. What have I done? You fought your demon, and you won, Alaric said. That is all that matters. He sat on the edge of the cot. You are not the first, you know. Gradine draws broken souls. Something in the fog, in the very stones. It amplifies the darkness. But it can amplify the light, too. You chose the light at the very end. I looked out the window. Gradine was still there, gloomy 23 and sad. A city of lost souls. What now? I asked. Now, Alaric said, you rest, you heal, and you learn to live with the echoes. He stood and left, leaving me alone with the silence and the truth. I was not Anselm, the hero, nor was I the monster who hunted his sister. I was both. I was a painter who had forgotten his own name, a brother who had saved his sister by destroying himself. I picked up the spoon. The soup was hot. For the first time in weeks, I was hungry. The silence in my head was terrifying, but it was also peaceful. I looked out the window, into the endless gray fog of Gradine, and for the first time, I didn't see a prison. I saw a beginning.